Hi everyone, this is Jono, and today I'm going to talk about crowdfunding. The goal of this video is to basically walk through some tips and tricks for how to run a successful crowdfunding campaign. Now, in my career, I've only really been involved in two, to be honest with you. I was involved at the beginning in the Ubuntu Edge campaign, which raised $12.8 million. But most recently, I organized and ran the Global Learning X Prize Indiegogo campaign, which had a $500,000 goal and raised $937,000. So I've got a little bit of experience. I'm not going to, at any step claim to be an expert here, but I thought it might be useful to share some of the things I've learned from doing some crowdfunding, so hopefully you folks will find it useful as well. All right, so first of all, I think that before you think about doing a crowdfunding campaign, there's a set of principles to consider. Crowdfunding is not a solution that is useful for everything, okay? Generally, it's best applied to products. So if you want to build a thing, if you want to create a neat guitar pedal or a smartphone or a watch, or you want to create a documentary or just build some kind of product that people can consume, crowdfunding fits very well to that, because essentially what people are doing is they're contributing their money and support towards the creation of that thing and making that thing happen. Where crowdfunding is a little bit more trickier is in fundraising, general fundraising. We're raising money to go towards a broad mission. So if you've got some kind of product that you're going to build, then crowdfunding fits pretty neatly to it. What's important is that you have a clear ask for what you're funding. So you want to be able to go out there when you do your crowdfunding campaign and make sure that it's very clear what you're asking for. Like when you ask somebody for $50 or $100, that it's very clear what that money's going to and what it's going to be doing. Now that's one of the reasons why products are a good fit for crowdfunding, because that money goes towards the development and release of that particular product, and the perks are invariably buying one of those products. So make sure that you understand what exactly you're asking for. The other thing is that crowdfunding works particularly well for organizations or communities with an existing addressable audience. So if you are brand new at this and you don't have an existing audience, you're going to have a harder run of it, because you really want to go out there and say to people who are already passionate about what you're doing, we're running this crowdfunding campaign, come and support us. This is one of the things that we found with Ubuntu. Even though Ubuntu with the Ubuntu Edge didn't reach its ultimate goal, which was $32 million, which was admittedly a lot of money. We ended up raising $12.8 million, but that's because we'd built a community of hundreds of thousands of people all around the world in Ubuntu. So we already had an addressable audience that we could reach out to. So it doesn't mean that you can't do it if you don't have an addressable audience, but you're going to have a lot more work in banging the drum and getting people excited about it. But the other thing is that what's critical is authenticity. Crowdfunding is a thing that's kicked off, it kicked off a while back, but in the last year or so, it's become heavily saturated, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of crowdfunding campaigns that are happening all over the world, funding different things. So, rather understandably, there's also been some scams. There's been some people who are either just outright trying to scam you out of some money, or people who are incredibly optimistic about what they can build. So you end up putting your money down on the campaign, it gets funded, and then you don't actually end up getting what you paid for. So you've got to be authentic, and one of the key things in delivering a crowdfunding campaign is to deliver that authenticity. You want people to go to your crowdfunding page when they take a look at it and make sure that they trust that what you're doing is real, it's accurate, and it's got a high chance of success. So best apply to products, very clear what you're asking for and where the money's going and what it's funding. An existing addressable community is incredibly beneficial, and you've got to be authentic. Those are the core principles that I've identified in crowdfunding. Now, there's a couple of different platforms out there that you can use. Kickstarter and Indiegogo, I think, are the two most popular ones. I have to confess I've never used Kickstarter, so I wouldn't wish to suggest or share any experiences of what that might be like. I have worked with the Indiegogo team twice, with the Ubuntu Edge and with the Global Learning X Prize campaign. The Indiegogo folks are awesome. I couldn't have better things to say about them. They really want you to be successful, and they're there to help you be successful. Kickstarter, as far as I'm aware, they require you to build a prototype or to demonstrate that you can, some form of the thing that you're building. And Indiegogo are a little bit more liberal in that regard. So one of the reasons why we went with Indiegogo with the Ubuntu Edge is because we wanted to raise a huge amount of money for a product that we didn't have a prototype for. And with Global Learning, Indiegogo allows you to do non-profit campaigns, and I don't believe that Kickstarter does, although I might be wrong on that. So I want to break this video into three areas. What you do before you run your campaign, what you do during it, and what you do after it, okay? So beforehand, first thing you've got to do is pick the details. How much money you want to raise, how long you want the campaign to run for. So the duration is important. I ran the Indiegogo campaign for X Prize for, I think it was 46 days, because at the time I looked it up, that was the average amount of time for a successful, fully funded campaign. So, but that was considered a relatively long campaign. A lot of campaigns only run for about 30 days. So think about how long you want to run it for. Do some research, do your homework, see what successful campaigns and how long they ran for. In terms of the money that you're raising, think about what's the minimum amount of money that you have to raise to be successful. Don't go overboard on this, right? I think what you want to do is you want to get out there with the minimum amount, you want to be successful in hitting that amount, and then at that point you want to add stretch goals to raise more money so you can do more and more things. Stretch goals are basically where, let's say you want to raise $200,000 and you hit it, you can then say, okay, we've got a stretch goal of $300,000 and if we hit this, we'll be able to do all of these extra things. So you really want to drive towards success. The next thing is put together a really strong project plan. Sit down and write down like what you're going to need, like what do you need to do to produce the page, what content are you going to need as you're running the campaign, how much money have you got to invest in this, when do you want to have your campaign video ready by, and know all of these things down, put owners and assignments next to those pieces so you know who's going to work on it, and then also set deadlines and say I want to have these things ready by these particular dates. You want to make sure that when you go live with your crowdfunding campaign that you are lobbing the best possible ammunition over the wall to make sure you're as successful as possible. And you've got to be really organized. There's a lot of moving parts in putting together a crowdfunding campaign. Now, the next thing is to think about perks. And perks, or rewards as they're often known, are basically the things that people buy to support the campaign. Now, some people may just put money down. They just say, I just want to contribute $100 and I don't want anything in return because I just think this thing's cool. But many people are looking to buy something. And you want to pick things that are valuable and interesting and think differently about it. A lot of people have a t-shirt and they have stickers and they have credit on a website because they're relatively simple things that you can do. The research that I've done, people find those things generally pretty boring. And if you're going to do a t-shirt, you're going to do stickers, it's got to look cool. It's got to look really interesting and impressive. So think differently. Think about what will be valuable and interesting to your audience, and experiment with different things. I know with Reading Rainbow, for example, I think that it was them and they had an arrangement with the Pebble watches. So you had like a limited edition Pebble watch for Reading Rainbow, and that was cool because people could get a neat Pebble watch and support the campaign. So just think about these kinds of things that you can do. I think your perks really want to preferably be related and within the spirit of what you're doing. Don't use perks and rewards as a means to sell random crap, right? You want it to be related to the campaign, but it doesn't have to be. For example, with the Indiegogo campaign that we did for Global Learning, for the Global Learning X Prize, we had some tickets to a Tony Robbins event, and we were selling some Tim Ferriss books, and they did very, very well, particularly the Tim Ferriss books, because the kind of people who are interested in the campaign are the kind of people who are interested in what Tim Ferriss does. So it doesn't have to be related, but try to make it related, and if it isn't related, try and make it interesting and relevant that people are going to want to spend their money. But the key thing is keep your costs low, right? You want to make sure that you're bringing in as much money as possible. And this is hard because usually the perk levels are $10, $25, $50, $100 and $250 for the lower ones, and then you can get into the bigger ticket ones. And you don't have a lot of wiggle room there. So for your smaller perks, $10, $25, try and keep them as digital as possible because then you don't have to ship stuff out to people. When you start having to ship, that's when life gets more complicated because you've got to have someone who's going to do the shipping, you've got to ship it to the address that it's going to, as well as the cost of the item. When you're thinking about shipping, think about both domestic and international shipping. I've seen a lot of campaigns, they release and they have an item and then you go and buy it, and then a week into their campaign they say, oh, we forgot about international shipping. For those of you who live outside of the US, go and add this additional perk which adds $20 on for shipping or whatever. What I did is I looked at I took the average cost of domestic and international shipping. So domestic people pay a little bit more when it's included in the price, but it means that international people it's a little bit less and it averages out. because you just don't know how many people are going to be buying the perks and from where they're going to be coming from. But yeah, make sure that your perks are interesting, make sure that they're affordable, because it's the perks that are going to really, those are the things that are going to drive people towards supporting the campaign. The next thing is going to be the content. You're going to want to have a ton of content that's going to keep the ball and the momentum rolling, that keeps people interested in participating in the campaign and supporting the campaign and spreading it spreading the word with their friends. So what I recommend you do is, imagine you have a 30-day campaign, is to create a spreadsheet and put a 30-day, like have a line for each day, right? A day-by-day breakdown of what's going to happen throughout those 30 days. And you're going to want to make sure that you've got interesting content that's peppered throughout that 30 days. Now, the way most crowdfunding campaigns work is that there's a big jump of interest at the beginning, and then it kind of quietens down in the middle, and then there's a big jump of interest at the end. Because, at the beginning you've got excitement and motivation about this new thing, and then at the end, if you haven't hit your goal yet, there's kind of a push to get it funded. You're going to want to make sure that throughout that 30 days, particularly in the middle bit where it's a little bit quieter, that there is a consistent stream of content that's coming through it. Now, in thinking about your content, you want to think about things like video. Video updates behind the scenes of what you're creating and the project that you're running. Think about video testimonials, particularly from well-known people. Think about all of the people who you can reach out to who can do a testimonial, and think about how, what their followings are like and how many people they can inspire to support it, and try and get video of them. But also think of other content types as well. Think about images. Particularly embedding an image like a 505 by 505 image and embedding that into Facebook. It jumps out on someone's Facebook feed when you post it, and it's more likely they're going to click on the link. So it's things that are really going to grab people's attention in a world where people's attention is being grabbed all of the time. So video and images, think about infographics that you could do. Think about events that you could do if you want to have like a regular hangout every week to give updates on the campaign and how it's proceeding. Think about all those different pieces of content that you can have, not just content that you can produce, but also testimonials and when other people can deliver content out there as well. I think you want to shoot for having something interesting at least once every 2 or 3 days throughout the duration of your campaign, and get that into your spreadsheet, and then also, again, say who's going to be responsible for making sure that content's ready for going live, and then set a deadline for when you're going to have that ready by. I'd recommend your deadline is about a week before it actually goes live. The other thing you're going to want to think about in terms of content is competitions. So Indiegogo, I'm not sure if Kickstarter have this, but Indiegogo have a referrals feature. So basically when people go to the page, there's a referral, they get a unique URL, and every time they recommend the campaign to people and people click on that URL, you can see basically a scoreboard of who's referred the most people and how many donations that they've made. So a great thing to do here is to run a competition, and the winner of the person who gets the most referrals or raises the most money gets a prize. So that's one thing that you should think about. Another thing you could think about doing are giveaways. So let's assume that you know a company or an organization that's got something that they can contribute as a prize. Maybe organize competitions for raising awareness on social media, or people submitting cool images, or whatever it might be. But again, things that get people engaged and participating in the campaign. Now it's time to think about the page and the structure of your page. A few things here that I've learned, like just limit the amount of text, get the smallest amount of text in there to get your message across, and make that page really visually interesting and striking. You can have some limitations on what you can do there. You may not have access to artists or designers who can help you with this, but just do the best that you can with what you've got, and try to really make that page, think about it as being this, it's a sell sheet. It's designed to deliver information and convince people to support and click on that contribute button to buy one of those perks or rewards. So keep it simple, keep it focused, keep it motivational and inspiring, and focus on making it visually interesting and striking. But also, invariably with most crowdfunding campaigns, the first thing you see is the video. And you want to have a really, really professionally produced, powerful campaign video. So your video wants to be short. I wouldn't recommend it to be longer than 3 minutes. And it just goes through all of the details about what the campaign is there to do, what they're asking for, what the thing you're producing is going to do, and when it will be delivered. And again, just it's the sale, right? It's effectively a 3-minute advertisement that convinces you to go and click on that button. The way I look at it is that that campaign video, that's the first thing, that's the first place where you want to sell your message and sell your campaign. And then the page down below it is where you can fill in more of the blanks and fill in more detail. But don't assume that people are going to look at that video, because some people may not be able to watch it because they're at work or they're on a cell phone or something like that. So you want some of the core pieces from that video going to be in that page content as well. I think it's really important on your page to explain crisply where the money's going. Like, what is it going towards? Where is it going to be? What is it going to be funding? But also, what is it not going towards? What's it not going to be funding? So, for example, when we did the Global Learning X Prize campaign, I made it very clear this money is not going towards fundraising. It's not going towards X Prize salaries and things like that. The goal here was to really raise money that's going to help make the prize more impactful. The other thing as well is that the page should really try and sell those perks and excite people around them. What many people do is they have like big images and very visually striking content that goes over the perks and shows pictures of them and shows what people are going to be getting and all that kind of stuff. And that definitely helps, you know. Having just textual descriptions of perks is going to be a little bit less interesting. If you don't have access to a designer, have textual descriptions of perks, but put as many embedded images as you can in there. Kickstarter and Indiegogo both provide really nice tools for being able to make your page look as visually spruced up as possible. But I think one of the key things is that when you construct that page is get lots of input from people. Ask people what they think. Is it too wordy? Does something not make any sense? You know, your friends, your family, your colleagues, get them to look over it. You want to get as much input and as much feedback to ensure that that page is effective as possible. So, let's now talk about what you do during the campaign. So when you kick it off, go for a big launch. You want to try and get as much press, as much interest, get it out there on the social media networks. Your launch is going to be one of the most critical pieces in your campaign, because this is where a lot of people are going to go and hit it. They're going to think, oh, that's cool. And then you want to encourage them to not only go and contribute to share, but to share it and be a part of helping to make it successful. This is one of the beautiful things about crowdfunding, is that it provides a means in which the audience can play a role in helping that to succeed. I supported a campaign recently on Indiegogo, which is this neat little guitar pedal, and it wasn't funded yet. And I went and I bought one of these things for $300, but I wanted to tell my friends about it. I wanted it to succeed. I wanted to make sure that they hit their goal so I could get my pedal, right? And you want people to do that when you go live. And that launch is going to be a critical piece when you do that. It's important for a few reasons, because when you go live, you want that number to climb up quickly. You want it to look like, you know, there's a lot of momentum behind it, not just the dollars that are coming in, but the number of contributors that are contributing to it. So the launch time is, you know, that launch week, this is when you need to be really pushing hard to get people participating. You know, the other thing as well is like focus on the press, try and get press to cover it. And that's good for two reasons. One is that the press will get your message spread far and wide and hopefully get people to the page. But secondly, you can then pull out press logos and quotes and put them onto your page near the top. So when you go to a page and it says, you know, it's featured on CNN and Fox and BBC and Engadget and Mashable and all these different places, people can think, wow, this thing's got legs. I should probably go and contribute. So really, you know, when you get that campaign up and you've got some press, update your page. Your page is not designed to be just this static thing that never changes. You should expect to go in and change it and adjust it and expand it as the campaign progresses. And I'll talk about this talk about this a little bit more later on. So get out there and spread the word and bang the drum and get people motivated. You know, this is the time to shine, right? This is not the time to be a little bit of a wallflower. You want to get out there. There's hundreds of these crowdfunding campaigns that are running all of the time. You want to make sure that yours gets to the top of the pile and that people see it and people are excited about it. Focus on publications and websites and blogs and podcasts and YouTube channels that relate to the thing that you're creating, and try and get them passionate and excited about it. The more people who play a role in its success, the more you're going to succeed. So I mentioned earlier on about the page will change. Well, this is because you want to optimize it. The thing you want to do throughout the campaign is to optimize, right? This is an experimentation phase, right? So, When your campaign goes live and you launch, look at the data, look at the analytics that are part of the platform that you're using, look at how many contributors you're getting, look at how many people are buying the perks. Are people buying more of one perk than another perk? Are you not getting as much traffic as you'd like? And then try to figure out why that is. So I remember when we did the Global Learning Exercise, we had a good launch, a lot of people went and put some money down, but we weren't getting as many people buying the $25 perk as I would have expected. So what we did is I shuffled the perks around, added more value to the $25 perk, and suddenly the contribution went up. We found that some people were going to the page, like a lot of hits on the page, and then some people weren't going and buying. So I adjusted the page, I shortened it, I made some pieces more concise, I removed some pieces of content. We saw the number of contributions going up. So you really want to optimize with that. Optimize around page design. Again, when you go live, you now have a new audience that you can ask about this. Get feedback on the page structure, get feedback on the perks. And you can do this through asking publicly. Ask people to go and share their information and just say, look, in the spirit of making this campaign successful, we want to be as open and transparent as possible. What do you folks think? But also, get input again from new people who haven't seen it before, people who you didn't want to share this with before you went live. Another thing that I'd recommend you do is run a survey. Run a survey that asks people what their favorite perks are, what their least favorite perks are, and different ways in which they think that the campaign could be optimized to be more successful. It's amazing what content you'll get out of that. I remember when I did the survey for the Global Learning Indiegogo campaign, and I asked people what their favorite perks were and what their least favorite perks were. What I thought was going to be really interesting was of completely zero interest to a lot of people. So it's amazing what you will learn, and that will help you to have more information to make changes. This is all about getting as much information, as much data, and making those changes based upon data. The one thing you don't want to do is change something that's actually working very well. So only make changes based upon data that helps you to make those decisions as effectively as possible. The other thing as well is to focus on those perks. Experiment and explore new perks. Invariably, when you go live, people may be excited about it and then may come forward and say, hey, do you think you'd be interested in this particular perk? As an example, Tim Ferriss, who I mentioned earlier on, is a very well-respected author. He got in touch with us and said, would you be interested in me having a perk which is dinner with me for an evening in San Francisco? And that was $2,500 a ticket. We had 4 tickets available and we sold them in a day, right? And that was something that we could add very easily. It was a huge value. So experiment with new perks that you can add to it. However, here's the thing. Be conscious about not screwing with your existing perks too much. One of the mistakes that the Ubuntu Edge campaign made was that we had a bunch of handsets that you could go and buy. So you could go and buy like one of these phones and they sold out. And then we put some more handsets online and they sold out. And then we put some more in the middle of the campaign that were cheaper and they sold out. And what happened is people started sitting back thinking, I'm not going to spend my money until, maybe the end of the campaign, because maybe they're going to put a handset on that's going to be much cheaper. So really, really, really don't screw with your perks too much. Otherwise, you don't want to have that risk of people sitting back and waiting to see what new stuff is going to land. You want to have a consistent stream of contributions through the campaign. Because again, it's not just the money that you're raising, it's the number of contributors that's going to be the goal here. Another aspect of running a successful campaign is to issue regular campaign updates. So these are updates that go out to the people who've purchased perks or rewards, but they're also publicly visible as well. This is a really useful tool for getting information out to people, and I think you want to use these in a couple of different ways. One is that you want to encourage people who've already contributed to spread the word. In every campaign update that you send out, you want to make sure that there's things that they can do. One of the things that we did in the Global Learning Indiegogo campaign, which was a recommendation from Indiegogo themselves, is a top 10 list of things that people can do to participate and be a part of spreading the word. So focus on those different things in those different campaign updates. But also you want to use those campaign updates to focus on different aspects of the campaign and raise awareness. So, have a recommended perk in each update, or more information about a perk, or this is a great way to deliver behind-the-scenes information and content and include testimonials. All that great content that you're pushing out that I recommended in the 30-day plan, present that in your campaign updates as well to make sure that you're getting as much bang for your buck there as well. I recommend you push out campaign updates once a week because people don't want to be spammed. If you're getting 3 campaign updates a week and people are being emailed by them, it's going to annoy people. So I recommend once a week. for the duration of the campaign, and then towards the end you may have more than once a week, two or three in the final week. But people will understand that you're coming into the conclusion. So that's what I'd recommend during the campaign. Let's now talk about what happens when you finish. Most people who do crowdfunding are not experts. I'm certainly not an expert, and I've worked on 2 of them. And I learned, hugely when I did the Global Learning Indiegogo campaign. There was so many things that if I was to do it again, I would change and I would do differently. And I think one of the key things when you go into anything new, and particularly when you go into crowdfunding, is you want to just learn from as many people as possible. I had a call with Ryan Grepper, who ran the Coolest Cooler campaign, and he provided me with some guidance. I had great calls with Kate and Rachel from Indiegogo, who were just tremendously helpful in thinking and being creative of new things that you can do and focusing on fixing things. So what we want to do is we want to really take those lessons learned in the campaign, and we want to write them down and summarize them into a report. So all the things that you learned, the things that went well, the things that didn't go so well, at the end, when you're done, when it's fresh in your mind, write it down. This is even a good thing to do as the campaign's running, but to get it down. If you work for a company that's doing a crowdfunding campaign, or you're working with a group of people, it's good to get all this into a report, into a summary slide deck that you can go through, and then everybody can review. Because then what you can do is you can say, what are the lessons learned here? Like, irrespective of whether you succeeded in the campaign or whether you didn't, what are the lessons that we learned to help us for the next time we do it, if there is a next time? And for many people, there is a next time. This is not just about the outcome. It's not just about raising the money and getting that number of contributors to support what you're doing in the campaign. It's about the journey that you went through to get there, the lessons that we got, and what we can pull out of useful things that we can think about the next time we go and do it. I recommend that if you build a summary deck of this, that you put in there the 5 things that worked and then the 5 things that didn't work. And this doesn't all have to relate to specifically the campaign. It maybe relates to, okay, well, we learned these things about depending on these people for perks or shipping or the platform that we used or whatever else it might be. But again, use this as an opportunity to peer inside that experience and pull all that good stuff out. And don't be too proud about it. Everyone who runs crowdfunding for the first time, and now I'm convinced for the second time, now I've done it twice, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. You're going to screw it up. And that's just because that's how we learn. And crowdfunding, when I started doing it with crowdfunding with Indiegogo, people would often, they'd refer to me as the crowdfunding expert at X Prize. And I said, there are no experts in crowdfunding. It's so new, it's so different, that there are a very, very small number of people who've done this multiple times, okay? So everyone's new at this, but get those thoughts and conclusions down so you can learn from them. And I think that's about it. I hope this was useful. I just really wanted to kind of brain dump a bunch of the things that I learned, and I'd love to hear your feedback about things that you thought things here that you thought were useful or less useful. And in the comments, please, those of you who've done crowdfunding, go and share your own thoughts and perspectives and input as well. If you found this video interesting, please like it, and also subscribe to my channel, because this is where I'm posting a bunch of videos about community management and leadership and collaboration and other good stuff as well. All right, folks, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.